Hi, I'm Jameson Fleming, the editor-in-chief here at MM+M in very sunny Cannes. I'm excited for our first video of our video series here, and with us is Chris Paquette, the CEO and founder of DeepIntent, and next to him we have Greg James, CEO of North America for Havas. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
We're going to cover a lot of ground here today, but I'll give the two of you an opportunity to quick introduce yourselves and what you're up to here.
I'll go first. My name is Chris Paquette. I'm the founder and CEO of DeepIntent. We're a healthcare DSP focused in the US, and we've built a platform that helps connect brands with, healthcare providers and patients across the country.
And you work quite in partnership with them.
Yeah. Really important data partnership and within our ecosystem. So, because at Havas, Havas is a global holding company network, as you know, but specifically in the US, a huge part of our business in the media group is around health and pharma solutions, and also in the creative side as well. So we have a really strong footprint in North America, and building partnerships with people like Chris and the team at DeepIntent are really important to, as modern wellness and modern healthcare evolves.
Yeah, all right, so let's dive into it. So, you've both led organizations through major shifts in healthcare media over the last half decade. What excites you the most about where the industry is headed from here? And we'll start with you, Chris.
So for me, the kind of through line has been the power of expressing all the insights we get from data and helping to inform the way that we're both delivering the creative, but also helping our agency partners find the best ways to connect with their audiences through data, right? So whether it's identifying certain demographics that have higher or lower index of certain diseases or conditions, or even helping clinical trial recruitment, I think there's so much power in the combination of having data-driven advertising, but really more data-driven information and connectivity and engagement between health audiences and our brands.
Yeah, right.
Well, I think there was a really seismic shift in consumer and patient perceptions of health solutions and pharma and the industry, particularly through COVID, because I think when you look at how the industry of pharma and wellness really consolidated its skills and moved at pace to solve a global problem, it really made people think differently. And I think when you think about how much innovation goes into R&D and the development of drugs, when you think about that same level of innovation going into the marketing ecosystem, that's what makes it kind of dynamic and exciting right now. And it's why it's, a really exciting place for people to want to work, because they can feel the value of the outcomes they can drive with kind of creative, different kinds of innovation as marketers that I just don't think was there a few years before.
Yeah, and obviously, this is a highly regulated, risk-averse industry. So how do you translate the excitement and those shifts that you're navigating over the last 5-10 years and turn that into real action with the teams that you're running?
So we always put the patient, consumer, and provider first, right? So everything we do, whether it's the type of analytics or the way we engage or the best practices we have, it's all about trying to really build genuine moments of engagement and education for those constituent audiences. We've tapped the power of many different types of technologies over the last 9 to 10 years that we've been running, whether that was like machine learning version 1, now new generative AI tools to help surface new insights. We're really trying to be at the cusp of what's possible with a combination of near real-time data, real-time media buying behavior, and then AI.
I think it's also like, it starts and ends with the measurement, right? If you're going to do something different, you need to be able to give people the comfort to try something new and innovative, and then give the safety of saying what that measurement is. And particularly when you're talking about health outcomes, like, okay, it sort of doesn't matter how regulated the industry is, you're still having to put in place the sense checks of saying, what do we think we want to do for this group of patients, for this business, for this organization? How might we measure that? And then what did happen? And what did we do to change and pivot and adapt based on what we learned through that process?
Yeah, and look, we're in Cannes. Everybody's going to be talking about creativity. They're all going to be talking about AI. What should we be talking more of in this industry? Is it AI, or is it something else that's on your mind that we should be addressing more than we probably are?
So yeah, I'll go first. I think, look, there's obviously a lot of hype around AI. I think there's still a lot of basic plumbing in the data that we're just now starting to build the connectivity between these immensely important and very different lenses on the patient and the provider experience. And so being able to provide the connectivity creates the foundation or the infrastructure by which we can deploy AI into actually unlock the full value that it has. So I see a lot of companies, talking about how they're doing generative AI for this or generative AI for that, and it's great. But at the end of the day, the AI is only as good as the data, as the input. And so where we're making a lot of investment is to actually help connect net new data sets to help enrich our understanding and the AI's understanding of the patient and the provider, and ultimately their needs at any given moment.
Yeah, I just add that it's particularly if you come to moments like this, there's a lot of the time when it can feel like we're all just talking to ourselves. And so yes, we're going to talk about AI, we're going to talk about the data and the technology. I think, in this instance, in healthcare provision, it's the most pronounced example of where you have to say, what's the point of all of that, right? So the AI can help you in very specific ways. The data can help you in very specific ways. But it's really complex. So you need to have really innovative technology partnerships and data partnerships in place to go and piece the stuff together. And then B, you have to be like, okay, well, why are we doing this? What's the point of that? And I think particularly around things like inequity in healthcare, which obviously we've been looking at a lot, that's where it becomes really valuable and incredible. So I guess, the direct answer to your question of what should we be talking about, we shouldn't necessarily just be talking about AI or data technology. We should be talking about what is the role of AI data technology to solve which specific patient-based problems.
Yeah, and you tee me up nicely for where I want to go next in this conversation, is looking at the health equity marketplace. And so can you talk about the original spark and insight that led to the creation of the health equity marketplace, and maybe explain a little bit what it is?
Okay, I'll go first on the headline. So we've done a lot of work as an agency over the last 5 or 6 years, almost answering that piece we just spoke about in terms of what's the point of the data and the technology, right? So we talk about meaningful media, what makes media meaningful, and how do you build media experiences, whether it's for consumers or patients or whatever audience you're trying to reach, that actually make a genuine difference and are outcome led. One of the things we learned through that process was obviously looking at inequity in the media ecosystem and inequity in representation of audiences or representation of what information is getting to audiences. And really this, the approach to this in the healthcare space was driven by clients' demand. Clients themselves were saying, look, the communication around healthcare is evolving. We know it's no longer just about huge 30 or 60 second spots out there anymore. How can we get more personalized with our marketing? Regardless, despite the regulation and the restrictions that are there, because it's really important that we start to serve audiences that are really underserved by the kind of digital revolution. So really tapping into understanding, marketplaces and reach and social reach in a different way was really an answer to a client's concern, several clients' concerns, but built on the work we'd already done in the general marketplace.
Yeah, and so when you look at the blind spots and the challenges in the industry, where are you trying to solve? Where is that focus right now?
Well, look, we live in a situation, in a context where the inequities or the experience that a patient has with the healthcare system varies dramatically based on their location of where they live or the demographic that they belong to. And 60% of the outcomes that patients have actually is tied back to the zip code that they live in.
Wow.
Which is a crazy stat. And to think about how we unlock the power, well, first detecting that and understanding that through the analysis of the different data sets we have, right, and then being able to associate that back to what demographics are represented in that zip code. What's the average household income, insurance coverage, right? There's so many different variabilities to the patient experience and then ultimately the patient outcome that, I think it's one of the most exciting things about what we do as an industry here is being able to serve ads. That's kind of like the basis of what we do, but it's actually able to affect and actually influence the lives of these patients, right? And ultimately help them get the care that they need. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, for the marketers who are going to watch this video, what is that key takeaway from this initiative that they should walk away from this video with?
We're honored to be working with partners like Havas on this, and I think they should be, every marketer should have the idea of how do I help promote the use of data to help drive more meaningful engagements to drive better outcomes for the patients. I think putting the patient center in terms of how they think, right, which I'm sure they do already, but really unlocking the power of different data sets to help build that connectivity and personalization is making those ads more relevant, which will elicit more of the actions that we all need them to do.
Yeah, and as you invest more into this marketplace and continue to build it, where is the overall vision headed? How is it going to shape how this industry functions moving forward?
Well, I think the vision has to be a much deeper use of this kind of product and this kind of way of working, right? It has to become the standard, not just a kind of nice to have, because it's actually addressing how do you get the right medication, the right treatment to the right patient. That's the job of, the really complex job as marketers in this space is not, can I sell more stuff? It is, can I help more patients and deliver that outcome? So the more accurate you get with the overlays of the data that we're describing and smart you get. I think the really important thing is it's also not a one and done, right? I think one of the problems is in the marketing ecosystem, if you're talking to CMOs going through pitch processes, is great, come and show me your greatest tech stack. Well, we can do that. Agencies can show up till tomorrow, constantly with a big tech stack, but it's not necessarily what's already built. It's how do you continue to evolve and innovate with that technology, with that data set, and really piece different components of that together, which is, I think, what we've done here and what DeepIntent's been a great partner to deliver.
Yeah, and when you think about how the market has responded, I mean, what are the kind of questions clients are asking? How onboard and how quickly are they adapting to this and saying, hey, this is the future and this is what we should be doing?
Well, clients have, since even the announcement a few days ago, we've had a number of clients reach out to us trying to ask, how can we do this, right? How can we tap into the power of that? Look, I think, like I kind of alluded to, it's a super important time, I think, for our industry to be also speaking our story of the positivity that we do for patients and for healthcare providers, the overall healthcare industry, right? I mean, we play a very important role in the delivery of care, and I don't think it's massively appreciated.
Yeah, when you think about how transparency plays in making this kind of partnership successful, walk me through, how transparent you're able to be about where the data comes from and just how this overall works.
Yeah, so everything we do is, we're fully transparent on the data, how we do it. In fact, I think it's almost incumbent upon us to do it because we are talking about patient lives, right? Like, we can't just be hand-waving saying, here's a data set. Like, we like to enforce explainability. We like to be able to show the proof. And ultimately, it'll show up in the measurement, right? It'll show up in the performance.
Yeah, I think it's performance in two senses as well, right? Because there is a commercial aspect to all of this. So the transparency comes down to what's it going to cost me to deliver that, right? What's gone into the R&D, if you like, of developing that data set and layering those pieces together. You've got to be really transparent about what that data is, how it was put together, and then what's the inventory that's going into that as well to serve it. So from an agency point of view, every piece of the puzzle, we want to be as clear and transparent as possible, because it's important on the outcome. At what cost did we reach this? Means you have to be super transparent to a client, in our case, to say this is exactly what each element cost, how it was put together, and this is what the cost is to you. So that, and I think the industry's gone through a range of relationships with transparency over the years. This is one where it's crystal clear that taking a transparent approach, which we do across all our clients, is really, really important.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked a lot about innovation and where this industry is headed, but when you think about where you're each individually placing your biggest bets right now, what are those focuses for each of you?
So at least at DeepIntent, we see an opportunity to really start democratizing the kind of the pharma commercial services sector, if you will. Just looking at the innovation that's happening in the pharma new drug pipelines that are in market, or coming to market. You see more and more small, mid-sized biotechs and pharmas that are bringing net new, very novel treatments for increasingly smaller but more impactful patient populations. So what I think the long-run area of opportunity for us, and maybe for you guys as well, is how do we start to enable commercialization for the 50% of the pharmas that won't end up getting acquired by the larger pharmas. Like, that's an exciting time for me. And by the way, the same tech that we built for them will be immensely disruptive for the large pharmas as well, in a good way, right? Helping them to be more efficient with how they go to market with these new medications are often life-saving.
Yeah, and it's a revolution, right? There is a real revolution happening in what healthcare marketing looks like. You know that more than anybody, right?
Yeah.
But I think that, if you're dealing with these huge global pharma businesses, they're going through their own transformation of how should they behave differently and what does digital transformation look like, especially if digital transformation for the organization is moving faster than it is for some of the patients they're trying to reach, who may not be as digital, right? So there's a balance there to be had. So I think where we're placing bets similarly is continue to innovate, use that role of AI and data and technology for how can we help think about patient outcomes differently from a marketing point of view. But there's, at the other end of this, there are those, we've got some incredible clients who really think of themselves much more as, a San Francisco technology firm than they think of themselves as big pharma. Yeah. And I think that mentality is really helping them to develop as businesses, and therefore changes the expectations of what we do as marketing business partners for them, how we show up at what pace. So we're really thinking about, what we call our modern wellness practice is it's not old pharma marketing with big TV spots. It is smart marketing at speed, which is agile. And that's what we're trying to build.
Speed is the common denominator for all this. 100%. Speed of learning, iteration, rapid development.
And AI is going to fuel that speed. We started the conversation with AI. We've talked about it a little bit throughout this. I want to, have a more pointed question around AI of, as it reshapes the industry, where is that one or two areas where you think it's going to be the absolute most disruptive throughout that whole marketing funnel?
I'm happy to take this. I mean, we see it, I think there's a lot of the logistical work that goes into launching a campaign, whether it's the research or the planning, it's the actual measurement, it's the insights that get generated. There's a lot of work there that I think is going to be augmented. And there's a lot of I'd say a lot of hysteria around AI is coming for everybody's jobs, right? I'm such not a believer of that. I think it's really going to help augment and really unlock human interpretability and kind of human explanation, human storytelling. Because a lot of the sludge work of dragging through Excel docs and trying to figure out, what does this mean and what is that hopefully that will all be automated through this, and then humans can do the job in tandem like we do with calculators, right? Yeah.
I'd capture it, which sounds kind of cliched, around personalization, right? If you speak to any major healthcare provider, they're talking about personalized healthcare. I think when we look at it from a marketing and a media point of view, we're talking about personalized delivery of messages, right? What is my condition and consideration? What is the outcome I need? That's going to be different. So the role of AI in doing the front end pieces of the planning and analysis about what different groups need, and then actually being able to scale how messaging is delivered and in what cadence and in what order and so on and so on. I think that piece of personalization is probably the dominant big thought I'd say it brings.
We call very similarly, we call that N of one marketing. It's kind of like the asymptote, if you will. That's where this thing is going to go. Now, it will take time for us to get there as the way consumers and providers engage with media change, and you have LLMs, right? And new ways of engaging with information and advertisements. But I love your point, and I think it's absolutely true that we see a future where AI is really going to be at the tip of the spear for better personalization and deeper personalization.
Yeah. When it comes to success in this industry, I always like to ask questions like, what's the next 12 months like? If we're having this conversation at Cannes next year, and this partnership has worked and has been effective, what does that success look like?
Well, there's a few ways we can measure, isn't there, right? One is our partnership should continue to grow, because I think what we're able to do with the scale of pharma and health and wellness marketers that come to Havas, we need this partnership continue to evolve. And I think we're genuinely doing something that's smart and differentiated and worthwhile with DeepIntent. So I think that continuing to grow that is one. I think the second thing is when we talk about the fluctuation in marketing and medical together of big things, which are big legacy organizations, with smart, nimble, new things, I'd like to see them learn from each other a little bit. And I think this kind of way of working helps both sides of it. Make the big beasts move faster, make the small beasts understand how to scale more quickly.
Yeah. So to a point I made before, I think what we've launched is really such an important part to the overall narrative and story of what we do as an industry, that in 12 months from now, I would love for that story to be, top of mind for people, whether, it's our agencies, it's our clients, but also regulators, right? And people who are making policy decisions. I would love to see the good aspects of what we've done, which is all of it, right? Trying to promote better health equity, really start to take wind and take hold of the way people think about what we do in Washington and state capitals.
Yeah, and when you think about the complexity of everything we're talking about, there's obviously misconceptions out there. So what's one area, Chris, where you kind of just want to debunk, and what's misconception that drives you nuts that you want to address right now?
I think some recent rhetoric from some senators, call it a couple days ago even. There's this idea that big bad pharma is deceptive, and there's all this misinformation in the ads. And look, like if you look at the data, right, and let the data do the speaking for what's actually happening, the ODPD, which is the FDA's review for team that reviews all the pharma creative, they reviewed 70,000 pharma creative in 2023. There was 5 enforcement letters issued.
Wow.
That's let's just say that's a near zero.
Yeah. Nearly a perfect hit rate.
Nearly perfect hit rate. So look, some of the annoyances that we see with like the long ISI, right? Those are there because of the same regulations that we put in for fair and balanced information, right? So I think there's opportunity for a more holistic discussion that's just more rooted in the facts.
So if we're back here at Cannes again next year and we're talking about some kind of innovation on stage, what do you hope to see up there? Is it the next stage of evolution in AI, or is it some other technology that you have your eyes on?
For me, it is AI, but it's in the applicability and adoption piece, right? We're at June now. In the last 6 months, it just feels like the pace of adoption and change in every industry that AI has helped us drive. You're starting to now see examples of it really tangibly come to life, and a lot of that being adoption that's driven from bottom up in organizations. So personally, I think for our industry and as marketers, I think I just want to see more of that, because I think it's incredibly dynamic right now.
Yeah, and I think as much as AI is going to lead to better personalization in the experience, I think there's also a kind of quasi-personalization even within like the agencies, the clients, and the partners themselves, as they realize that they need to control and unlock the data assets that they have and connect that back to the experiences. So I think next year I'd love to see, where I think we'll see is that we'll see in this, our partnership is an example of this. Agencies in particular wisening up to there's so much power in the data that they have to be able to bring new innovations to market, and just by connecting and harnessing and connecting these data to build these new innovative products.
Yeah, awesome, guys. Thank you so much for your time here today. Chris, Greg, I'm Jameson from MM+M from Cannes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.